Hi, everyone. So welcome to our third daily space roundup, I believe. So yeah, I've made we're trying to get this show off the ground right now, and basically the point of it have is to basically just talk about some of the recent happenings at Starbase. So it's basically like complementary to a lot of the stuff that we already do. So like as you can see now, this is one of our pictures from our photographer John out at Starbase. And so basically what we're going to do is just go through some of the pictures. We'll also talk about today's episode a bit as well. Hope y'all enjoyed that. It was a ton of fun to work on. And yeah, so that's basically the plan for today. Um, so yeah, uh, let's let's go through some photos. So right now, the most recent stuff that's been happening at Starbase is repairs after IFT 4. A lot of the repairs seem to be going well. And on the screen now, you should be able to see the ship quick disconnect. So just a few days ago, teams were seen repairing it. So one of the actuators had broken. So the actuators are basically like down here. They're designed to essentially make sure the plate for the ship quick disconnect lines up with the ship, because you don't want there to be a gap, and then for methane and oxygen to just leak out, and then you have um, some fairly explosive gases just floating around, which is not fun. Um, so that's the point of the actuators. It's basically just to line it up. You also do have one on the back. If that one's a larger one, that one's designed to actually pull the quick disconnect away from the ship during launch. But yeah, it got damaged during IFT4 from lots of flames, lots of pressure. But the problem is it's been damaged on basically every flight so far. Although this time, because they have had to replace the entire assembly essentially on previous flights, I'm not sure exactly which ones they had to replace it on. I believe IFT1 had it replaced, and I don't exactly remember if they had to replace it on any of the others as well. But they have had to replace the entire thing before. So the fact that they're only having to fix an actuator now is at least an improvement. But an actuator has busted almost every time. So hopefully there will be some improvements for the next flight. But yeah, as you can see now, they fixed it. It's pointing the right direction. It's not crooked off to the side like it was before. So that's an improvement. And yeah. Oh, also, I believe I forgot to introduce myself. You should be able to see it, my name down there. But yes, I'm Nathan. I'm fairly new to the Y team. I'm one of the writers slash researchers for Y now. Um, and yeah, so I'll be hosting for today. We do have different hosts occasionally, like Felix will be on sometimes. We'll also have DJ, or there's a few other hosts as well. But yeah, today I'll be the host, and yeah. All right. So the next photo is mainly. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Um, and yeah, the next photo is mainly of the road closure. So for those who have not seen today's episode yet, if you haven't, you should totally go watch it after this stream, of course. But the Starbase is currently being hit by or at least it's mostly past now, but it's still got some residual stuff. But it's being hit by a decently sized tropical storm. It wasn't hit directly, it didn't go straight over it, but it has still caused a fair bit of damage, and you can see that here. The beach got pretty messed up. And yeah, a lot of the photos from today are going to be basically looking at some of the damage that happened. There's not too much damage other than some flooding and some just sticks and stuff on the ground, because this is it was a fairly small tropical storm, but it was still a storm, and we have an entire section on it in the video. This is basically just like this is a baby compared to some of the other stuff that could come by, especially considering meteorologists and a bunch of people who know weather very well are predicting that this year is going to be a very active year for hurricanes, especially. I actually live over in Florida as well, near not too far away from where Felix lives at the Cape, and we'll probably get some hurricanes here too. So that'll be fun. But hopefully, Florida and Starbase and basically everywhere else doesn't get hit too bad, or who knows, maybe it'll just be a bunch of small tropical storms. Right now, there is actually a small tropical, or what could turn into a tropical storm heading over to the Cape. Right now, current estimates put it as only about a 40% chance of getting stronger, but like I said, there's a lot of predictions saying that it's going to be a bad year. So I wouldn't be surprised if that turns into a small tropical storm, but it'll at least be some rain and lightning over here in Florida. But yeah, next up, so some of the pictures are going to be a little out of order, just because of some of the way the files are labeled. But next up, we have Ship 30. So over the past couple weeks, basically just since directly after IFT4, SpaceX has just been completely just shaving Ship 30's tiles off. There's almost none left. They do still have some. For example, you can see. I was gonna point to it on the screen, but yeah, I got a mouse pointer. You can still see around the leading edge of the flap. They do still have quite a few tiles there, so they might still end up replacing those later. But they might just also not have those tiles ready yet, so they might just be waiting. But another thing you can see, this is one of the more interesting parts, you can actually see the new black silicon ablative. So Musk mentioned this during one of his gaming live streams whenever he was asked. So this ablative is not supposed to be the primary heat shield. The primary heat shield are still these tiles, but the ablative is being installed as a backup. They did actually test this ablative. If you recall back to the episode just before IFT4, we had mentioned that SpaceX intentionally left off 2 or 3 tiles. So they left off 2 tiles entirely, but then there was a third tile that looked a little different. It was still black like the rest of the tiles, so it wasn't missing. Or we weren't sure if it was a tile or not, but turns out Musk confirmed that black area was them testing this new ablative solution. So this wasn't a solution they just thought of after the damage caused during IFT4. This was something they had been thinking about and testing for a while. And the same thing probably applies to the new heat shield as well. So we didn't learn about this new 2 times stronger heat shield until a couple weeks ago, basically whenever they started ripping the heat tiles off the ship, and Musk brought it up in the stream. But there's not really any chance that they weren't working on it beforehand, because for them to just come up with an entirely new formula for a heat shield and have thousands of them ready this quickly is unlikely. I mean, it is SpaceX, so it's possible, but still unlikely. But yeah, so that's why Ship 30 looks like it has already re-entered. It's because they're replacing the heat shield with an ablative and stronger tiles, which I definitely look forward to seeing in action. Hopefully, they upgrade around the flaps as well, because it's not been entirely confirmed yet, but it's predicted that the thing that failed during Flight 4 was actually the seal in the flap, less than the actual tiles, although the tiles, you could see them flying off during the flight as well. So there were some failures in the tiles, but the main problem was actually this joint, or the seal, for the flap, or likely. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but that's what Musk had basically talked about just before the flight, and it does seem to track well. So we got some more pictures, including some more close-ups of the actual ablative. So you can see like it's a fair bit different from the white felt they have now. And it is hopefully a pretty good solution, and they'll be testing it a bit more for this. And hopefully it fixes some of the problems they've been having. Yeah, you can see even closer. And so these, it's kind of hard to tell if these are the new tiles or the old ones. Although, given the fact that you can see the felt under it, these do look like some ones that they haven't quite gotten around to stripping off yet. We'll see what SpaceX's plan for all the tiles are, because they might end up leaving some. They might end up taking them all. Sorry, taking them all off and replacing them. It really just depends on how many of these new version 2 tiles they have, or if they want to run any tests. It might also depend on weight, because the new tiles, I mean, they're 2 times stronger, but the question is, do they weigh more? Like, how much extra weight do these tiles and the ablative add? Because they might also be interested in testing if they can get away with still having the weaker, possibly lighter tiles and other locations. But we'll see what SpaceX does. So over here, we now have the rocket garden. We have the wonderful ship 26, which I love, but I know a lot of people are also just. It's an odd one. It's an odd one, but I do love my ship 26. So it's been rolled back to the rocket garden since its static fire test. We also have, of course, the very old now ship 20. Now booster 4 has been completely demolished at this point. Essentially, there's still a few pieces left here and there that they haven't quite gotten around to yet. But we'll see what SpaceX's plan for ship 20 is. It'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. And also, don't forget to like the stream so more people can find it. So a lot of these pictures are also newer, so they haven't. So for example, some of these pictures aren't in today's episode. So be sure to like so more people can find it. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and become a channel member. So these are only a small fraction of the photos that our photographer John takes. If you want access to more of them and more in-depth content, such as like the photos, and as well as certain member-only videos, be sure to become a channel member or join our Patreon. If you do that, you do also get early access to the videos along with ad-free uploads of the videos. So if you're interested in that, be sure to either go over to our Patreon or become a channel member. Also, don't forget to check out Y+. We have started Y+ back up. If any of you remember, that will also be essentially a no comment version going through these photos that we're going through now. So if you're interested in seeing that, we now have Y+ back up and running. And we also have our 24/7 live stream set up. So be sure to check that out after this stream as well. Or we should hopefully be simultaneously streaming this on the 24/7 stream as well. So if you want to hop over there, that works too. Yeah, so it is running. Yeah, so over at the build site, we also, our photographer was able to spot a few new pieces of equipment. So these are pieces to cranes, which will likely be going into the new Star Factory. So SpaceX is basically completely done with the exterior, other than a small section that looks like it's supposed to connect to the office building, probably with a corridor that's to help facilitate easy transfer between the office building and the Star Factory, mainly because, like, you know, some things like it's going to be raining sometimes, and not everybody wants to just go outside to walk between buildings. So of course there are probably going to be other reasons as well. But yes, these are for essentially internal cranes that will be going into the Star Factory because yeah, it's a little hard to lift gigantic steel rings by hand. So these will be there to make it easier to move things around inside the Star Factory before they're moved over to the Mega Bay and stacked, or before they're just put on a ship or a booster. Yeah. So we were able to spot these, which also means that the inside of the Star Factory is coming along very nicely. So here's some more pictures of the build site. So you can actually see the office building here. This angle does make it look like a lot less work has been done, but that's mainly just because it's basically perfectly level with where all the floors are. A lot of the flooring and a lot of that stuff is being built now. Also, a lot of work couldn't really be done over the past couple days just because the hurricane or tropical storm, sorry. But there was still work that was done, which yeah, for some reason SpaceX still decided to do a lot of work during the tropical storm. But yeah, it doesn't seem like too much work was done on the office building during that time. But if you look down here, you can also see lots of water because the tropical storm dumped lots of water onto Starbase. It did also, so one of the problems with a tropical storm or a hurricane actually isn't, along the coastal areas at least, it isn't the rain. So a lot of people will think that a lot of the flooding happens from the rain, but what a lot of people don't realize is it's actually from the wind. So what happens is similar to how the moon or the sun can pull the water during high tide and that can raise it, the wind can also just push the water. Um, yeah, so it's tidal surge, and it will just push gallons upon gallons, like just millions or billions of gallons ashore. And the rain is one thing, but having tons of seawater just pushed up against the land is not exactly good for infrastructure. And it's one of the hardest things to combat during a hurricane or a tropical storm. And it's also what tends to cause the most damage. They are hurricanes and tropical storms are not something to play around with. Even Floridians know that. Well, some of us. Oh, wrong way. So over here you can also see, so this, I believe is actually the top of the new crane. So, okay. So I just got a question of what would happen if the Star Factory was completely flooded. So that hopefully shouldn't happen, although they would probably have to perform quite a few repairs. Now, the actual infrastructure of the Star Factory, if they saw like a gigantic storm coming, they can do a lot of things to prepare. So, for example, if a Category 5 hurricane was on its way, they would probably make sure to seal off as many entrances as possible. So, the outside of the Star Factory should theoretically be waterproof to a certain extent. And there are ways to combat against storm surge. But they are harder, and a lot of the equipment, especially down on the ground level, might get damaged and need to be replaced. So it could be pretty expensive. And it might also set back a few things. Fortunately, whenever it comes to a lot of the more expensive stuff, such as the cranes, like the gantry cranes that this will be a part of, shouldn't be too much of an issue. Air conditioning should be fine. The actual structure of the building should mostly be fine. And a lot of the stuff can be repaired. Um, which is a nice thing, but it would probably still cause at least a couple weeks of delays. But whenever it comes to like fully shutting down the Star Factory or like basically fully putting it out of commission, it's unlikely unless the actual structure failed. Because whenever we're talking about a category 5, in that case, the winds are large. Like for during the episode, we brought up a previous hurricane that had hit where Starbase currently is in the 60s called Hurricane Beulah. It had winds that topped 130 miles an hour, which is the speed of a lot of tornadoes, actually. So it's essentially a tornado the size of a country that is just hurling water and wind at a location. So hurricanes are definitely very dangerous, but there are ways to prevent against it. And so I've seen some reports as well. These aren't confirmed, but at least it does make sense because a lot of, especially larger infrastructure, is designed like this. But I have seen some reports that Starbase is designed to withstand up to a Category 5 hurricane for wind speed, at least. So there shouldn't be too much of a concern, but it is something that SpaceX will need to look out for, especially coming into the more dangerous hurricane seasons. But yeah, over here we can see the Mechazilla Tower. So they've been doing a bit of work around this area, but the interesting thing that I want to like point out here is specifically like this is the old tower, and we have the new crane, which is currently working on the new tower. So that will be pretty cool to see. I don't know about y'all, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that new tower come online. And we'll definitely have to see what SpaceX's plan is, considering they're building the tower first as opposed to the launch pad first. So here at Y, we do have a few theories. One of them is that that tower could be a catch-only tower so they can test stuff. Another one is that they changed the design for the launch pad because SpaceX has had quite a few problems with the design of the launch pad. And if you look over at Cape Canaveral, they've now torn down the original pillars for the launch pad. So it is possible that they just changed the design of the launch pad to something maybe a bit more reusable. Who knows? Maybe they'll add a flame trench. You know, they put one at Massie's. Who knows? But we'll definitely have to wait and see what happens. So over here, this is the new. This is basically where the first tower section is going to connect. It's probably a little hard to tell, but this is actually the base of the new tower. So we have a metal piece which will directly connect to the first tower section, as well as this new concrete formation. So you can see that it's kind of got an opening here. That's so they can, I'm not 100% sure of which side this is on, but they will either run piping for the ship quick disconnect through this hole, or they will run the cables for the drawworks through this one, because there should be two openings essentially to be able to get in. But yeah, the drawworks is connected at the bottom, runs up to the top. We have, we'll probably end up talking about it a bit in the next episode because we'll probably be seeing that pretty soon after they start building everything, because that's what operates the arms. But it's a very interesting construction, and the way SpaceX decided to do it is pretty interesting, considering it's a very long cable that runs from the base of the tower all the way up to the top, down to the Mechazilla arms, and then all the way back to the drawworks. It's a very interesting construction. But yeah, over here we have the new crane laying on the. Actually, yeah. So this looks like it's the new crane laying on the ground. So it is partly operational as of now, but they're still building it up to be its full height. So this crane will actually be larger and more powerful than the original Frankencrane that built the first tower. So there are likely a few reasons for it, or there could be a few possible reasons for it. Right now, the most likely reason is the change of the design of the tower. So another thing is that the tower sections might actually weigh more than the Frankencrane could originally lift, because when they were building the original tower, they essentially built a lot of the pieces, like they placed the pieces and then they built all the infrastructure inside. For the current pieces of for the new tower, they actually built a lot of the infrastructure first, and then once they stack it, it will be essentially complete. They'll only need to attach a few things and run some piping through it, and yeah, so the current tower sections are much heavier, likely, as well as the changing of the designs for the top sections of the tower. Yeah. So we also have a lot of pictures of the storm, like during that happening. So the beach was closed during the storm, but I guess some people still decided to go, or they decided to go whenever the waves were still a bit chaotic. It is Texas after all, so some people might just ignore the "hey, stay off beach, it's dangerous" sign. But it's you can kind of see, it's kind of hard to tell because that is a fairly large truck. Hopefully they weren't stuck when the picture was taken, but who knows. Oh, okay. I just got confirmation they weren't stuck. Okay, so I just got confirmation this red one was stuck. That's what it looks like because the tires are basically in the ground. But yeah, maybe not the best idea to drive out to a beach just after a tropical storm. That is something Floridians would do. Texans, be better, please. So yeah, over here we got some more pictures of the Star Factory. These, I believe, are from the next day from the previous pictures I took, or not I took, that our photographer John took. Sorry. And during this or in this picture, you can also see through the Star Factory a bit because they had one of the doors open. So hopefully, as more and more work gets done, we'll be able to get some more pictures of inside the Star Factory, and we'll be able to update you on how that's going. I'm really looking forward to that because this Star Factory has been under development for a long time, and a lot of us were actually worried that they weren't going to put the glass section in because they had started paneling over where the glass section was originally supposed to be, because it was supposed to be diagonal like this, essentially across the entire length of the building. But then they started paneling the right side, and we were afraid they were just going to panel over the whole thing. But fortunately, they did add the window, which, yay. And in this picture, you can also see Ship 30 is still getting a lot of work. All right. So yeah, over here, we can see some work being done around the parking garage. So that should be operational soon. They're still doing some minor work on the inside, but the actual structure is done. And yeah, that should help clear up a lot of space for all sorts of things, because right now, Starbase has a very bad parking problem where they cannot find spots to park. So people are just parking on the road, or like parking on the side of the road, or just parking on some space that could be used for something else, like Musk, or not Musk. I believe Kathy Luters had mentioned that they actually plan on putting a whole nother mega bay at Starbase, likely. So, maybe they're clearing up one of those spots that's currently used as a parking lot for a new mega bay. We'll have to see. Yeah, so here's some more work at the parking garage. They're painting the outside, which I think it looks cool. That's Starbase. It's incredible to see the transformation that Starbase has gone through from literally just a pile of dirt with a tent and some random silver rocket sitting on it, to a full-fledged factory for the most advanced rocket in the world. So yeah, over here we got some more pictures of the rocket garden. We got Ship 20, Ship 26, and Ship 32. More pictures of the crane. So yeah, it is a very large crane, um, and it needs to be able to build a tower as tall as that. So it's definitely going to be it's definitely going to be very cool to see whenever that crane finally fully goes vertical and is stacking that final section. So here's SpaceX's personal leaper, which is I love that crane. Honestly, yeah. So it's got a few names, but Marvin or Crane X, whatever you want to call it. I do love this crane though. Um, but yeah, it's basically been here for a while now. But this crane is not large enough to stack the tower, so that's why they need that big one. Um, some more pictures. You can see um, as well, like at the for the chopsticks that um, they've been working on them. They've also still got some scaffolding around the launch pad because they're still doing some work, but hopefully there shouldn't be too much more work that they need to do. Yeah, so recently they also scrapped the outer GSE tail or GSE shell for the vertical tank for one of the oxygen tanks on the for the vertical tank farm. Honestly, it was a little weird that they did this one. I was really thinking they would do one of the one on the other side as opposed to this one on the corner. I'm kind of a little confused as to why they did that instead of the one on the other side, but it's SpaceX. Maybe they had a reason. Yeah, I guess they were just trying to get the hardest ones out of the way first. So over here, you can actually see in this picture lots of rain. But over at Massie's, over at Massie's, the new Can Crusher or Can Crusher 2.0, or at least that's what we think it is going along nicely. And in this picture, you can actually see Booster 14.1, which finished its testing not too long ago. And actually, if you go over to the live stream, you might be able to see that rolling. Yeah. So let's see if we can actually give us 1 second. Because you might not actually need to go over to the live stream. But yeah, Booster 14.1, it had some tests done on its lifting pins. So it was kind of interesting to see because a lot of us, whenever the Can Crusher lid was put on, we weren't actually sure what was going to happen. We assumed that maybe they were testing a new manufacturing method, or they were just testing some of the stresses to prep for landing. And we assumed they were going to put the I'm forgetting the name, but essentially a bunch of cables to actually crush the can. But turns out the only part they wanted to test for this entire test tank was, let me see if I can zoom in, that little piece right there. That is the only thing they wanted to test. Um, as far as I remember, I don't even think they fully filled up the tank. I do not remember them doing that, unless I'm wrong. Because yeah, as far as I remember, I don't remember them filling up the tank. Um, so it is, yeah. So they didn't even test to see if it could hold cryogenic fluids. They just wanted to test that little tiny pin right there, which, a little interesting that they would build this entire thing for that. It is possible that they built it to test other things, as opposed to just the pin. But it is SpaceX, so who knows? All right. So yeah, we got some more pictures at Massey's. You can see the old nose cone cage. I am curious if they're going to be using that anymore. So they are working on the new V2 for Starship. So it is possible that they are going to use this the nose cone cage for the newer versions of Starship, but we'll have to see what happens. But SpaceX is not known to be the sentimental type or to keep around things that they don't directly need or serve a purpose. So it is likely that they are still going to use it if they've kept it around for this long, because it's been here for a while now. So it is pretty likely that they will be testing it. All right, so next up, lots of storms. So yeah, our photographer took a lot of pictures of the storms, and I definitely wanted to share some of them because they are pretty cool, and they definitely they definitely help show the scale of the tropical storm. And even though this was basically just like a sprinkle compared to some hurricanes, it still goes to show the power. And you can just imagine this times like 10 for a proper hurricane. Yeah, so this was pretty cool. He managed to catch a double rainbow, including a gigantic one. So I definitely wanted to share those because I thought they were pretty cool. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful picture. Thank you, photographer John. Actually, yeah, this one it's actually basically a triple rainbow. Yeah. So this was actually taken from the back of Roadie's truck. Uh, yeah, where he lives. So that is a beautiful picture. I do love that. But yeah, you can definitely see the power of the storm. Now you can still, it is kind of interesting as well because and you saw all the flooding from the storm, but you can still see that there's quite a bit of sun through the clouds because this is still a fairly small storm. There were probably some times where you couldn't see any sun through the clouds, but it's still just dumped tons of water, and this was still a very powerful storm. Um, and you can definitely see that in the waves. So you can kind of see this is kind of a good representation of why storm surge happens. So you can see the waves like crashing up against the shore. Uh, this you can see like it's not like the clouds basically aren't. There are almost no clouds around in this picture, but the surface of the ocean is still getting just completely tossed around by the storm, even though it's almost nowhere in sight. Whenever the storm is directly on top, it just pushes water as far as it can go. Oh, wrong way. Yeah, beautiful pictures. All right, and that actually is our last picture. Um, so yeah, that's basically the the Starship update for today. The Fortunately, Starbase did survive the storm. Um, there hopefully aren't going to be any more storms this year. Fingers crossed. But this one wasn't too bad. And and so I just heard apparently there are two more right on the tail of this one. Hopefully, those just end up curving and going out to the ocean. I know we have one headed over here to Florida right now, or at least the possibility of one. So yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. If an episode ends up being a little late or something, could be because Felix does live over here at the Cape now, so that might mess up our schedule a bit, but we'll be sure to keep you informed through this or through community posts. So if you want to stay up to date on that, be sure to subscribe. And you'll also get notifications whenever we upload our new videos. Also, if you have not watched the latest video, you definitely should. I thought it was awesome. I'm not biased at all, I promise. But yeah, it was it was a pretty good episode. Also, don't forget to check out our 24/7 stream where you can catch live views of Starbase, including of currently booster 14.1. Should be rolling right about now, if not already rolled. So you should be able to see that moving along the road. If not now, then like soon. Yeah. So it should be live on screen right now. So yeah, this is basically the view, other than my face, that you'll get at the 24/7 stream. So be sure to check that out. You can see the booster rolling now. So we'll see what SpaceX's plan with booster 14.1 is. They might use it for something else. They might not. We'll see. But yeah, uh, yeah. Also, be sure to check out Y Plus, where you can catch a bunch of these photos as well. And don't forget to um, check out our Patreon or become a channel member for some ad-free videos, as well as some extra pictures that we won't put on Y Plus or that we are not going to show here. And yeah, they'll be you'll get those basically as soon as they come out as well. So the pictures I'm showing here, most of them are actually from the day before, but for if you're interested in seeing those pictures the moment they come out, be sure to become a Patreon or a channel member. All right. Thanks for stopping by, everybody who stopped by. I hope you had a good time. And I hope you continue to have a good time. Good afternoon, good evening, just whatever time it is for you. I hope you have a good time. All right. Thanks again for stopping by. And don't forget to head over to our 24/7 stream for some live coverage over at Starbase. And check out our videos too. All right. Hope everybody.